In 1974 in Mayapur, after the festival time, a series of events unfolded, beginning with the idea that a lot of devotees were sick, and Prabhupada had brought in the leaders into his room, in the front room in the Lotus building, and it was Jayapataka Maharaj and Tamal Krishna, Gargamuni especially, and so he was explaining how he wasn't satisfied that the devotees were sleeping. He'd been up, I even saw this, that he was up on the upper floors, and he saw a lot of people sick and sleeping, and they should have been at Parikrama. It was like 8 in the morning, quite late. So at the time, when I was looking through the window, he was talking to them, explaining, they were blaming each other and saying none of them had enough money to get better food. So Prabhupada kind of paused, and he said, just before that, this fellow Sudama Vipra, who was a sannyasi at the time, he was a friend of Siddhaswarup's, very good friend, bodyguard, very tough guy. He had gone to the Philippines. Prabhupada praised him for his preaching, but at the same time, he didn't want anyone to come to the Philippines. He'd even threatened them severely, the other GBCs. And Prabhupada knew all this, and I happened to know it. So at the time that Prabhupada came in, Sudama came in, at the same time Chaku was sitting there. He was a Bengali worker, Muslim, but he loved Prabhupada. He loved to sit there and listen to Prabhupada. And during the course of the conversation, Prabhupada saw Sudama Vipra. The others didn't see him come in. He was sitting behind them. And Prabhupada said, so if you require money, Sudama Vipra will supply. And he went with his hand like this, and then they turned around and they saw Sudama Vipra sitting there. Same time, they were kind of shocked that Prabhupada would say that, because the last person in ISKCON who would have given him a dime or a paisa would be Sudama Vipra. And in a split second, Sudama Vipra took off his expensive watch and just handed it to Chaku, and so that Prabhupada could see how munificent he was. And it was just a snippet or something completely amazing to me, that Prabhupada's wit or his something, intelligence, just so sharp. And whether or not Sudama Vipra understood the message there, that's something we'll never know. But he gave the watch, and at the same time shocked those leaders, and because they knew that there's no way that he would ever give them a dime. He'd rather kill them than give them money, basically. I think he had said pretty much the similar thing. So this is one of the pastimes of Prabhupada's wit, wisdom, vast intelligence. Another time in Mayapur, another shocking, amazing thing was when Balamardan and his wife Taitreya had been, I don't want to say ruling over the Brooklyn Temple, but it's a well-known fact that they were called Maharani and Maharaj, although he was no longer a sannyasi. So I guess they considered themselves some sort of nobility. But I'd been in India and I'd left so as things unfolded, got to the point one evening, and several proofs had been given that Balamardan his wife was completely bogus. So just to reinforce that understanding, the devotees were saying how Guru Kripa and several devotees had tried to speak Japanese with her. She didn't respond, and it was pretty much a done deal that she wasn't who she said she was. So, and Prabhupada was also saying, well, she's his mother's age. I could understand she's his mother's age. He also said that I never instructed him to marry. Actually, I could understand that he was having illicit connection with this woman. He had said that earlier to Brahmananda, early in the day. I heard that. So at this point, it's already nighttime. There's no lights. There's only a kerosene lantern. And all these things have been said. And it was just everything's just about to hit the fan, more or less. It was hitting. And so Prabhupada, during a little bit of a pause, and he said, "It is a great mystery, is it not?" Like that. And everybody was real quiet. It was just a Prabhupada-ism that just sticks in your head, It is a great mystery, is it not? And the grave voice of Prabhupada, It's a great mystery. I mean, the mystery really is like, wow. Who could fall for this, or why, when, and how? So there was a time in '74 when I was asked to do a painting of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta for the temple. And we didn't have any reference at the temple, so I was sent next door, right next door to one of Prabhupada's godbrothers to get a reference from a book. So when I got there, this godbrother, he'd been coming around to see Prabhupada. Prabhupada knew him very well. So as soon as I came there, he told me he didn't have that. He looked a little bit, but he realized his book that he had that picture in was stored at a different mott down the ways. So meanwhile, I was with him for 45 minutes, an hour at least, just because he talked. And one thing he kept reiterating was that I should go to Sridhar Maharaj, that he was a living guru. And so my first instinct was to say, and I did say it once at least, until he kept on. I just said, well, Prabhupada's a living guru. I kind of said it but I realized kind of at the same time this man wasn't completely intelligent, because it didn't seem like a right thing to say to me. I mean, living guru, what does he mean? Why is Prabhupada's godbrother a living guru, and Prabhupada's not a living guru? I mean, this is 1974, you know. So he kept saying it. He must have said it 7, 8 times in an hour. You should go to Sridhar Maharaj. He is a living guru. So anyway, I just listened to him. I walked with him to the mott. I got the book. And then when I came, I told the leaders there, Bhavananda and Jayapataka, I said, you know, what he said is kind of funny, you know, Prabhupada, we should go. Anyway, I didn't think of it. And then later, Bhavananda had gone up to see Prabhupada in Bombay. He mentioned this story. So Prabhupada's response, he said, was immediate. He got very angry. His lip was quivering practically in anger, very disturbed. And he said, I am not there, but you tell him for me he is nothing but a bedbug. Of course, I don't think they did that, but he said it. Nothing but a bedbug. He has taken sannyas 30 years ago, and he's done nothing but suck the blood of my Guru Maharaj, which is what bedbugs do. So Prabhupada is very protective of his ISKCON. We didn't have the adhikar to say such things, so it wasn't conveyed, and it couldn't have been conveyed except by Prabhupada. It's doubtful if Prabhupada actually saw him, if he'd have said that exactly at that, but he, you know, Prabhupada had that mood, heavy mood. Je anilo